To the weekly live Q&A. So we are ready to rock and roll. If you've got questions, queries, doubtful points, feel free to chuck those in the chat and I'll answer them at the end during the Q&A session. Feel free to jump in and say hello as well if that's your jam. Before we get started, please remember to like, follow, share, subscribe. Don't be one of those people that just sits on the sidelines and doesn't say g'day, share, and spread the word. Feel free to engage. I love chatting with interesting people. Now, today's little workout, today's topic, we are going through a mobility workout to help offset lower back pain. Now, with everything, obviously, we are well into month 3 of lockdown here in Sydney, but like anyone who spends time at the desk or if they've been in lockdown, a lot of that sedentary lifestyle problems comes along with sitting in forward flexion and tight hips and subsequent lower back pain. So what we're going to go through is a really easy flow like we have done the previous weeks for shoulders and the squat pattern to go through our hip hinge, which will start to lengthen posterior chain and activate a few muscles. So I'm going to show you some no equipment variants and then give you some tips on how to upskill that throughout the workout. But we'll go through twice through, should take about 10 minutes around each, but you can do this with no equipment or you can use things at home to help you along. Now, before we kick off, we have a 28-day mobility program that covers all of this kicking off next week on the 13th of September. It comes with 4 days a week worth of programming that's fully customizable, app access, weekly Q&As, a weekly private group yoga session, all for $47. So go to minimalismfitness.com/UYM to access that, and you will be able to get in on the goodness. We've got about 32 people on board so far. So back to today's topic. Let's get started. We got our trusty app here with all the programming. We are simply going to start in our standing position. Now, you are going to need to use potentially a footrest if you want to really optimize the session here. But we are going to start with 1 minute of toe touches, feet together, reaching up and touching the floor. So if you can't get fingers to floor, we're going to use this to start increasing range as we go. So the big tip is don't push into pain. So breathing into the belly and then on the breath out, coming down. So if we can't touch the floor, we're just going to ease into the stretch. And we're going to be here for about a minute, team. Shifting the weight to the heels so you can see my bum going back to the wall and I'm sitting into that posterior chain stretch. So hopefully you'll see on the video, you'll see my range increase. Now I've been doing a lot of kettlebell swings and training these last few weeks. So tight hammies from a big day on the swings and other elements has got my hammies pretty tight. So shifting the weight, touching the floor, and as you feel you can get further, you can go to knuckles to floor and then fist to floor. So now I'm back down to fists, which is good. Started at fingers, beautiful. You can also cock a leg and push into a single leg. And now that's going to isolate any asymmetries we have or a tighter side than the other. So feel free to change that up as you need. And then push into range. So I'm getting a little bit more stiffness on this right side. So that's our toe touch. From there, we're into a couch stretch. So moving over to an article. Now, you don't have to have a chair, but it is better for this stretch. You can be on the floor, simply squeezing the glutes and pushing into hip extension on this down leg. If you want the most out of it, you want to get your foot as close to that bum as possible. So squeezing the glutes, breathing into the belly. And we're going to sit here for about 45 seconds each side. So the trick here is on the breath out, drop the shoulders and imagine everything melting away. So we're sitting here. If we get a bit of knee pain, just chuck a pillow underneath it. That's really easy to do. Squeezing the glute. Really make sure you're pushing into hip extension on this down leg, so that's nice and tall. Breathing in. That's it. Good. We've got about 15 seconds. Probably not even that, to be honest. And we're going to change it over. So if I don't get the timings quite right, you can still sit there for that little bit of extra time. Now, squeezing glute nice and tall, breathing in. On the breath out, big shoulder drop, big sigh of relief, and moving from there. So after this, we're going to focus on a bit of glute activation using this step here, using the footrest, but we can also start that from the ground as well. I'm going to show you a couple of leg lock bridge options that you can do to activate hammy and glute, and we'll roll into a couple of hamstring-based exercises and then the full posterior chain movement where you can add weight or you can just leave it at body weight depending on where you're at with your level. So holding here, about 5-10 seconds. Obviously working hip extension here. Now that's super important if we've been sitting all day. Our hip flexors become chronically tight. We deal with those tight hips. So stretching through that. All right, now laying onto the floor. We've done a bit of lengthening now. It's time to start our stabilize sequence. So we can start from the floor here and bend a knee and then drive up for that glute bridge here. Okay, but the level up I want you to focus on if you can. Just grab that chair, bend that knee again. You can also get a trigger point ball in and pin that against your chest while you move through the range. But we're simply bridging up. Now, if you can't manage a single leg bridge, what I want you to do is just go back to double leg bridge. So you start on the floor, 2 feet, bridge. Once that becomes easy, elevate yourself down to 2 feet here and bridge like so. Okay, but single leg is what we want to optimally aim for because we can isolate that hammy and glute on that driving leg a bit better. We're going to work through here for about 30 seconds. I'm going to switch it up. You should feel that hammy starting to get nice and warm as we drive. Now, by focusing on this knee bend as well on this unloaded leg, we're actually focusing on hip extension and hip flexion. And if we can't keep that, we should definitely be a little bit concerned if we want to do activities like running. It means potentially our glutes and hammies are switching off in that position and our hip flexors aren't strong enough to maintain that position. So now we've gone through some glute bridging. Let's take it down a bit more of a difficult hamstring-based movement, being the hamstring walkout. Now, this can be substituted for your old Nordic hamstring drill if you have the ability to do so, or using some slides to slide your feet out. But we are just simply going to go out, controlling that hip bridge, glutes are on, and walking our hips back, feet back. Walking out and then coming back. So, walking out, coming back. I'm going to go through 10 reps. Should start to really feel that in the hammies if we're working that right. You might not even feel it warm up. If you're pretty mobile, team, it's not a bad thing either, but it's still doing the work. You don't have to always feel the burn. I've lost count here, but we'll go for 2 more. Bang. And last one. Cool. All right, final one is a bit of hip hinge patterning. Now, you can use a dowel. You can also use some kettlebells once you feel confident. But our entry level into this position is just our bum tap on the wall. So ideally, we should be far enough away from the wall we can reach back. Vertical shins, so soft knee but vertical shins. And our bum should just tap the wall. Chest falls, nice relaxed neck so we're not winding it on like so. Bum back to the wall, feel that load through the hammies. And if your feet come up and we fall against the wall, we're probably a little bit too far away. So we come back and then we edge into position. So we're just going to be here. Let's go through about 15, 20 reps. So now we're working that hinge pattern after mobilizing and stabilizing our posterior chain. Obviously, you can add a bit of extra secret sauce to this if you have foam roller, trigger point ball, or if you want to go and get some manual therapy, That's going to help increase that length on that posterior chain. But this should help lengthen that posterior chain and offset some of those lower back tightness issues, because we're focusing heavily on hip extension here and then glutes and hammies into that flexion range there. So we're actually switching the things on that should be working, but usually get switched off when we're sitting on our ass all day. So moving out now. Let's go through again. Let's work that toe touch. Reaching up. Squeeze the quads this time. Really push into that stretch. Let's go for 10. Oh, good. Breathing through. Don't forget to bring a leg up if you need to, or if you want to test each side. So I'm comfortably getting fist to floor now. If you really want to level that up now, you can also start at the bottom and work extending through position like so. So as you feel confident, you can just stay down here, working that posterior chain. If you've got any lower back injuries, ease into this nice and slowly, but then you should be able to get close to palms to floor as you increase range. But toe touches first, working nice and comfortably through your breath. We can then work into that hip extension. So we're here for 30 seconds, team. So if you've got any questions about specific things, I know lower backs are a touchy subject because you get told to avoid it at all costs, but there's been numerous studies that say non-diagnosed or general lower back pain should rectify in about 3 weeks if you're moving right and there's no obvious acute injury. So if you suffer from lower back pain consistently and things like that, probably best going and get yourself checked out, getting scans, that sort of thing. But if you know it's just from general stiffness and inactivity because you're living that sedentary life, this sort of stuff should have almost an immediate effect to help you moving better and reducing some of that discomfort. You partner this with your squat programming where you're working on internal and external rotation of the hip. You can work on your posture stuff with your shoulders, and we're actually starting to use that posterior chain for those activities we should be switching up now, team. So using that range through really easy forms of movement so we don't push into pain and get that reluctance where we get bound up. And we're offsetting a lot of that forward flexion time. So extension-based patterns are going to help us relax a lot more, switch on parasympathetic nervous system, because when we go into this hunkered down approach, that's our fight, flight, fright mechanism there. But then we can get up nice and tall and start to feel the benefits of using our breath and getting into extension. So like I said, if you get a bit of knee pain, chuck a cushion underneath. I'm going to be here for about another 10 seconds, team. Then we're going to go over onto our back, into that glute bridge. Now, working 10 to 15 reps should be relatively easy for you to achieve at your level. So if that's 5 reps, and if it's both feet on the ground, it's 5 reps with both feet on the ground. Focus on the glute squeeze and the hip drive up, okay? Really work that position as we go. That's about 10, 15. Not the best counter, but if you've got a problem with my counting, you should be able to do it for yourself and we'll be sweet. Working that bridge down. Now it's really important with that bridge. We'll have a quick stop here. If you can't get to full hip extension up here, and even if you're both feet, getting down onto the ground and driving hip extension from here is really important. So don't skip steps if you're not quite there at the level, because it's only just going to set you further back. So focus on full hip extension and driving those glutes together before we move to more difficult versions. So now, hamstring walkouts. Let's go for 10. So as you can see, getting out to full extension on the knees is ideal. Keeping that bum off the floor though. So you'll feel that through your hammies. But like I said, you can use a slide, or you can go to Nordics if you've got the equipment and the ability. Nothing wrong with that at all. So we'll go for 3 more after this one. And last one. All right, final exercise for this little mini workout here, that hip hinge patterning. So find your distance from the wall where those toes feel like they're just about to pop up off the floor. So pushing in, find that range, bum back, squeezing nice and tall at the top. Doesn't have to be forceful, team. From here though, this position can be subbed out for deadlifts, swings after you get warm. Single leg deadlifts are awesome. You can use barbell, kettlebell, dumbbell, whatever you want to use. But this is just getting the pattern moving, getting those glutes and hammies functioning to hopefully take some of that tension off the lower back. Let's go for 3 more. 3, 2, 1. Touch that wall and coming out. So you can roll through that as many times as you like. There is no problem with you going through it. Like I said, you can elevate that through the you can elevate that through use of trigger point, different tools as well to elevate your movement. You got the advancements on each level, so you can start with those basic ones that I recommended today, and we can go from there. Well, there's Mr. Alex. Hello, Alex. I hope you're well, my friend. That's very good. All right, so remembering, team, like, follow, share, subscribe. If there's any questions from the floor right now, feel free to shoot them into the chat. But we've got that 28-day mobility program starting on the 13th, i.e. next Monday. Feel free to go to minimalismfitness.com/UYM. It's literally $47 for the month. It is the best mobility training you will get for $47. So we'll go through everything we've learned over the last 3 weeks. We'll level up by using trigger point balls and that sort of stuff, because we can add a lot of effect by just using minimal equipment. You can also go through the journey with no equipment if you are that so inclined. But then as you advance too, you can add things like dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells back into your training into this program. And it's a super easy program to adhere to. So jump onto that link, sign up. Feel free to do this stuff throughout your day, because it's really going to benefit all those hours we spend at the desk. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty warm even just 2 times through it now. So posterior chain, also focus on internal and external rotation of hips. So that squat program we did a couple of weeks ago would be perfect for you. You don't need a lot of equipment to have a big impact on your mobility and movement. And if you are someone that's coming back to activity, you should be scaling it to your level. So there we go. Add a few into the office workout. That'll look pretty weird if you're busting that out in the office, but I am all for it. Feel free to send videos of that. There you go. I'm supple and loose in the hips. I don't know where that comes from, but that's genuinely appreciated, Mr. Alex. All right, team. You have a fantastic week. Feel free to sign up on that link that I've just provided, or reach out to Brett@minimalismfitness.com if you've got any further questions, and I'll be more than happy to help.